Well, we're really pleased today to have a very nice discussion about transmitter and remote control. The folks from 22 HBG, which is a new company inside the Elenos Group in Italy. We have Guido Podena and Renzo Marazzo with us, along with Chuck Kelly, who's going to introduce things and get us underway.
Thanks very much, Barry. I came across this company a couple of months ago, and they were doing some very innovative, creative things that I thought addressed some very important needs in the broadcast industry. Since the Elenos Group is a group that I consult with, and these guys are affiliated with the Elenos Group, I thought it would be useful to share this information with more of our American broadcast clients. They introduced this product, TX Control, at NAB 2023 and won an award for Best of Product of the Year. And that's very exciting. And I thought maybe it'd be useful to have Guido and Renzo here, the real experts behind the system, explain the technology and the differences that it offers American broadcast engineers. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Guido, first, and carry it away.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Barry, also for the invitation. Yes, and we represent 22 HBG. Yes, we are young, but not that young, since the company was born in 2011. So it's many years we are focusing on, developing solutions for radio and the TV broadcasting market. So the latest solution we have is a remote control system and also monitoring system, which is totally cloud-based in its default version. So we are focusing to provide something that doesn't require hardware and that has all the benefits of the cloud technology. So IP security, cybersecurity, small upfront costs, so you don't need to buy any hardware in order to control your devices. We are compatible with all those devices which are capable to communicate through the SNMP protocol. So you can control transmitters, radio and TV transmitters, but not only. So sensors, switchboards and encoders, and gateways, and a lot of categories of devices. So yes, we are from Italy. We are born inside the Elenos Group, which was our home until 3 years ago, but then we moved to a new headquarters. We made a lot of experience with the Elenos Group customers, but now we are focusing to provide an horizontal product which is compatible with many brands. So now I'm going to show you our landing web page, and you'll see how many brands we have. And every day we are adding new devices to our platform. So all the customers benefit from these integrations. The platform is totally customizable by our developers, and some things can be also customized by the customer itself. We believe that it's pretty much cost effective since, as I said, it doesn't require any hardware to be installed. You just need a browser to open up the platform. We also include a mobile application for Android or iOS. So, as I said, the maintenance costs are very cheap. You just have an yearly subscription fee, like any cloud service. And we believe this can be, a different approach to the remote control world. And also, we presented the solution at NAB, and it was awarded with the Product of the Year award. So we are very excited about this. And so that's it. tx-control.com. It's our webpage. As you see, we are TX Control, the innovative solution for remote control and monitoring. And this solution, as I said, totally cloud-based. It's scalable, so it's very expandable. You can have one single device to control until infinite devices. So our solution takes care in any case from small customers to big networks. And it's totally a software as a service platform. And as I said, it connects to devices through SNP, but also through GSM. And we are developing also MQTT protocol to be as much compatible as possible. 22HBG, it's pretty focused also on artificial intelligence. So we integrated inside the platform some intelligent algorithms that my colleague Renzo will show you in a few minutes, that are able to predict failures, to predict maintenance activities, and this reduces the maintenance costs. So we are focused into the optimization of performances and costs. Like all the remote control platforms, of course, we are focused into raising alarms when something doesn't work. And you can receive alerts through email, SMS, WhatsApp, Telegram, or even push notification through the mobile app. And what is really important is that, especially for medium big networks, is that you can assign alarms based on priority and on the type of alarm to the specific technician or users, even geographically distributed. So we believe that it is a big help for a big organization. Our platform, how does it work? Well, we poll each connected device every 2 minutes, for example, but you can also poll a device manually, and you can also send automatic scheduled comments to a group of devices. So, for example, you can switch off or reduce the power or change frequency on multiple devices in just one click. So we have a command scheduler, and we have many more commands that now Renzo will show you. We are compatible with radio and TV transmitters with many brands. I'm going to show you some now. As I said, you can control and monitor many categories. Here on our webpage, you have more details. Of course, we have analytics, and Renzo will show you something in a few minutes. You can organize all the devices in groups and networks, and we are focused in cybersecurity since we implemented, for example, two-step authentications. We are in our default version hosted on Amazon AWS platforms, since we are Amazon certified engineers. So we work with the top technologies in terms of cybersecurity. But it is possible for the customers to also host TX control on premise, so on private servers. So if they prefer to own their data on their own servers, it is possible. So we also provide this type of service. Yes, we have many type of users. You can organize the platform as you prefer. It is totally web-based, it is responsive, and it implements all the features required to have a proper control and monitoring service. These are just some of the brands that we are compatible with. As you can see, in the first 6-7 position, we placed the broadcasting main manufacturers of transmitters. Of course, the first 4 are from the Elenos group. But then we also develop MIBs, drivers, compatibility with many more manufacturers. So each time we add a new MIB to the platform, all our customers will benefit of this and will be able to connect this type of devices. So from my side, more or less, that's it. If you have any question, I'm free and I'm available to, I will be happy to answer. Anyway, tx-control.com is our web page. You also have this web form. You just fill this one, and you can send us a request for information, quotations, and more. Also, we have this email address, sales@tx-control.com, for any requests. So from me, that's it.
Thank you, Guido. And now I'd like to turn it over to one of the head developers, Renzo Marazzo, who's going to explain and actually walk through the interface, walk through what you see with the unit. And one thing I'd like to take the opportunity to underline that Guido talked about, and I think differentiates this product from everything else that people typically are using today, is the IP security afforded by TX Control, because it's on the AWS platform, because it has two-factor authentication, because it has the ability to be inside a VPN. Those things differentiate, I think, this product from all the hardware type controllers that exist out there. I think we're one big news story away from having IP security to be a very top of mind issue for many broadcasters today. So with that, Renzo, take it over and show us the interface, will you?
Okay, thank you, Chuck. And in fact, let's start by saying that today we will see three different instances. So one instance that has been installed on a physical server that is running just there on my side. And we will see another instance that is running on an AWS instance, so the cloud version, and the third instance that is running on a physical server located under a VPN from our customer. So let's start from the cloud-based one, that is the demo instance of Elanos, and all the devices that you will see in this instance are real devices that are now working, so are collecting all the data. So the first thing that you see when open TX Control is the map. So you can easily see what is happening in your network, and you can see all devices in clustered mode or by single pins. And by using a very easy map color code, you can comprehend the real status of each device, because if you see the toolbox, that means that the device is in maintenance mode. But if you see the blue one, it means that the device is not communicating. So maybe there is a network issue or something that is happening on the network of the device. If you see the the green one, it means that everything is working fine. So no events has been opened on the device. But if you see the yellow one, it means that you have in the device at least one medium or low event opened, and the red one, so you know there is one major event opened. So let's start saying that with the TX Control you can manage multi-brand and multi-model devices. So you don't need to install physically hardware in your site, but the only thing that TX Control needs is that the device is able to communicate with our server, not only through SNMP protocol, but if you had your own protocol, we can integrate this for you. And actually, we are managing devices that are talking with SNMP, GSM, MQTT. But if you want to integrate a direct connection or LoRaWAN connection, we can integrate new protocols in order to make you able to communicate with your network. So actually, we have integrated more or less 100 brands. And so as you can see, actually, we have Elanos, Electrolink, Telco, CS10, Profline, Wacom, Elber, and so on. And for each brand, we have developed all the models, all the device models that the brand has released. And for each brand, for each model, you can manage by yourself. That is the most important things that the TX Control can do. You can manage by yourself all the variables and all the commands that you want to send or receive from or to device. And you can manage by yourself all the informations of every variable. You can change the name. You can set a custom name if you want something more verbose. You can change the unit of measure and so on. when you install for the first time TX control, you can find directly all the brands that we have developed. But if you want a new brand, the only thing that you have to do is to communicate with us and say, okay, 22 HBG, I need a new brand. And for example, if you want to integrate, I don't know, a specific sensor from Samsung, the only thing that we need is the MIB file, and we will create for you a new driver, and in a very quick way, so only going to the brand and importing manually the file that I will send to you. You can upload the model, and as soon as you import the model, you can start communicate with your device. And we have multi-brands, so it means you can manage and control different device types. So you can control LAN controller, multiplexer, terrestrial transmitters, routers, satellite receiver, and so on. So basically, every device is able to talk to our system. And you can also obviously configure your email server in order to grant the communication between our service to the users. And let's go in deep in a device detail. So so we can go in this device that is a transmitter from Elenos Indium. So the first thing that you see when you access the device detail is the real-time dashboard. So you can see immediately what is happening in the device. And when we create a new model, we create in parallel a real-time dashboard with the most important variables that we think that is important the technicians will see when they open a device detail. So you can see all the variables from the device. You can choose your data time range that you want to see. So in this case, we can see that the forward power has decreased in this specific data range. And if you want to see all the variables verticalized in this specific data range, you can select these data range, and all variables will verticalize on this specific point. And another cool thing that you can do is to communicate in real time with device. So by clicking real-time information, the system start a direct communication with the device. So you can see all the variables that are updating every half second. So if you have a problem, you can open the real-time informations, make a print, and send directly the timestamp of the device to your technicians, to your manager, or to wherever you want. And I think the best important thing that you can do with variables is for each device, you can manage your personal thresholds. So in this case, I've opened the forward power. And if I want to receive events or alarms from this device, when something changes on forward power, I had to integrate my personal thresholds. So in this case, I'm saying to the system, okay, please, for this specific device, monitor the forward power. And when you check that the absolute or percentage value is lower than the 50%, please create for me an event with medium or high priority and send to all the users that have been associated to this specific device. Because you can create thresholds, modify all the behaviors for each variables, and you can also associate to the device different users. So let me remove, okay. So you can associate to each device different users, and for each user you can specify which communication protocol or channel do you want to use, because actually we are using only the email notification. But if you want to use Telegram, WhatsApp, or I don't know, SMS, we can integrate this for you in order to reach all the users in different ways. And you can also select different minimum level of notification. So in this case, Renzo Marrazzo will receive only low-level notifications, but you can change this in real time. Another thing that you can see is the event history for this specific device, and you can filter all the events that are being opened from the system by variable, or you can check for the events that has been opened because the value was bigger than the threshold, smaller, and so on. And when you see the events, you don't see only numbers and red or green pins, but the system explained to you because was why has been opened the event. In this case, the event has been opened because the alarm on this specific variable, that is the forward power expressing bots, the last measure value is 2000 either than the set thresholds of 1. So I set a thresholds and the system has opened for me an event. And every time the system open an event, you can receive email notifications, real-time chat messaging, and also receive a push notification on our app because the system is directly related to a mobile application. And another thing that you can do, but let me go through the networks. You can create different networks. So if you want to divide your entire network in sub-networks, you can create, for example, network 1 that can be network for North America, East America, South America, and West America. And for each network, you can create specific groups that are subset of devices. So you can group all transmitters, all LAN controller, all the devices that are located in the North America, wherever you want. And when you have created a group, you can schedule planned commands. That means that you can set a specific commands that will be sent to all the devices that are integrated in a specific group. So you can send, in this case, a command to a group of North America. You can send a command that decreases the power to 25% of all the devices. And you can enable it. You can say to the system, okay, please send me a notification when you send the command. And you can specify the granularity of the command. So you can say to send this command every week on Monday and Wednesday and Friday at midnight, for example, if you want to decrease the power in the night. And as we have created a command to decrease the power, we can create another command to increase the power during the day. Another cool thing that we can see is the analytics dashboard that grants to the user the possibility to create generic dashboards. So we have seen specific dashboard for a specific device, but we can create a specific dashboard that integrate different devices. For example, the temperature sensors, the door sensor, transmitters. Also, the customer can create his personal real-time dashboard. So before we have seen specific device real-time dashboards, but also you can create dashboards that include different devices. So for example, if you want to create a site real-time dashboards, we can create for you a page that show different devices, for example, the temperature sensor, the door sensor, the television transmitter. So we can create for you generic dashboards. Or if you want maybe to see all the power consumptions from all the devices, we can create this. And in this case, we have created a network availability dashboards that show the wait and downtime for all the devices present in the network, and the availability in percentage, and all the downtime from each device in a timeline or specific by device. But yes, if you want to create your personal dashboards, we can create this for you using your own logic. And the last thing that we have integrated in TX Control and we have presented at NIB in Las Vegas is the Genius part. So is a section that has the role to analyze all the data that is coming from TX Control and give to the editor, to the customer, to the broadcaster, an overview of the TX Control instance and of all his network. Because the first thing that you see is the network quality report that is saying to you that you have registered 3 to 8 devices 0 is not reachable, 0 as an active event, and 1 is maintenance mode. So you can see immediately the status of your network. And the second part is the best part, in my opinion, because is an artificial intelligence generated report based on all the events that are being opened in TX control. So the system analyzes all the behaviors of all devices and generate an high-level report telling you which device is the most present in events, which variable is the most triggered, and generate for you a sort of provisional report for the next month, and create for you also some suggestion in order to optimize all your network based on the events analysis. The other part is the instance optimization report. So actually the system in this section is telling you that we are using TX control at 75%. But to reach the 100% of optimal usage of TX control, you had to configure your mail server in order to receive correctly the alerts by email. You had to set at least one thresholds on all devices in order to receive events in case of fault. And the last thing that you had to do is to associate at least one user to each device in order to receive all the events. And so the last part that is, let me say, a demo release is the energy report for the energy consumptions, because the system analyzed the behavior of all devices that has been registered in TX control. And for each device, the system can recommend to you another device that can work fine. In this case, for example, we are seeing Elanosindium devices. The system is telling you that you are using a 5,000 Elanosindium that can work at 5,000, but is working right now at 2,000. So the system is recommending you this device, and if you use this device, you can save 220 watt-hour, and in 1 year you can save this amount of money. So we can translate with other values, and we can change the energy price for the US market or international market. But the power of this report is that can say to you how many you can save in 1 year using properly every device. And you can apply this kind of analysis and report on each brand and on each model, on each device type. And you can apply also by contacting us your specific logic. So if you want to integrate other reports, other real-time informations, other analysis, we can integrate this for you. So I think that at top level, we have seen more or less all the functionalities of TX control. So if you have some questions or anything.
Let me ask one thing, Renzo. Your English is quite good and email is international, but what about a broadcaster in the United States who wants to get an answer about something about TX control, and he's located in the US? Where is the service coming from in the US for this product? Maybe Guido can answer that.
Maybe I can answer. Yes, we have, as a partner, we have Broadcast Electronics. So we can also provide all the support through BE, which is pretty a famous player in the US and has a lot of customers. So yes, we partner with BE, and everybody who can have any problem which could raise can be fixed together directly from 22 HBG with the partnership of BE. So if you prefer to have an American reference, yes, we have. We understand that our English is quite spaghetti English, you know.
Much better than my Italian, my friend.
Sorry about that.
Let me ask you this. It's clear that this is TX control is capable of doing very, very large networks, but it's probably very cost effective in doing them that way. But what happens if you're a single operator? You have a single AM station or a single FM station. How cost effective is TX control in that scenario?
Well, we believe that it is cost effective from the smaller customers up to the big network. Since, first of all, you don't have to buy any hardware in order to install TX control. And for example, if you had transmitters in 2 sites, for example, you should buy 2 hardwares, I mean, with other solutions. And this is an upfront cost. With our solution, you don't have to do this purchase. You just have to buy a single license of TX control, and you can control also these devices even if they are distributed into geographically distant sites. So yes, we believe that we are pretty much cost effective, and of course we believe that for medium and big networks, this cost effective is much more powerful, so they can benefit much more about our technology. But we believe that it applies to both situations.
Another question for you. So a couple of things are happening in the American broadcast arena that are important here. One is that broadcast engineers in the United States today are doing far more with far less resources. You know, back when I was a chief engineer in Colorado in the 70s and 80s, you know, we had an AM and an FM, and we had 2 engineers, myself and an assistant. Today, you might have 10 stations with 1 guy. And so, you know, what I see is this technology makes it possible much easier for 1 guy to control systems and sites over a broad range much easier.
Yeah.
That your read of it as well?
Yeah, we also having feedbacks from tower managers, for example. We have a lot of interest from this type of customers also in Europe. And because this is, you know, is a tool that can be sided with critical tools, existing or also existing ones. So they are asking to integrate TX control also with existing systems, control systems. And we believe that it responds to a need.
Another point that's unique, I think, in the United States, maybe it's happening the same way in Europe, is that the ownership of station groups is very dynamic these days. I could be working for a station with 10 or a group with 10 stations in it, and next month it could have 30 stations in it. How flexible is this system to expanding in that way?
Well, totally. It is totally flexible, and as I said in the beginning, it's totally scalable. So our license is divided in multiple plans, and the plans depend on how many devices you want to connect. But I mean, these devices can be also positioned in different sites. So whenever you don't reach the limit of the plan, you can have multiple transmission sites. You can add new sites, and you can benefit of the current license that you are already having. So you can go from 1 device to 1,000 devices, and of course the price is not the same, but you can scale up theoretically with infinite devices.
I'm especially impressed by that one screen that you showed the data coming off of a transmitter, everything that you could possibly want to know about what's going on inside. And one of the clients I have, a Native American that has 2 full power and 2 LPFMs, this would be something that, if it were cost effective for them, would be a great way for them to know that all 4 of their transmitters are running well.
Yeah, sure. And one of the screen that Renzo just showed us helps you saving energy costs, which is a great topic in Europe. In the latest 2 years, energy costs raised a lot. And I guess this is a topic that it's starting to become important even in the US. So that's why we developed this kind of artificial intelligence that can predict maintenance problems. Also, we are integrating weather forecast informations. So we will be able to say, hey, in your area, a big storm is coming up in 1 week. Take care of your devices and watch out because something big is going to happen. So yes, our tool aims to be an intelligent and smart tool. Yeah.
Well, I'm very impressed, gentlemen, by your product, and look forward to hearing more about it, and perhaps getting a report, Chuck, from one of the groups here in this country that's using it.
Sounds like a plan, Barry. And thank you for allowing us to share the information to all the visitors of your lunch program.
Guido, Renzo, thank you ever so much. We hope to see you back one of these days.
We'll be happy whenever you invite us. We'll be happy to join.
Again, I think it's very interesting that you can see everything you need to know about the transmitter in one screen.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. You know, when I went to NAB this year, different years have had different themes, if you will, for me anyway. One year, everything was suddenly turned into solid state. One year, everything was digital, whether it was studios or transmission systems. I think the cloud was, in my view, the theme of this show, because there are so many things where I can really see massive advantages to using the cloud, both in terms of cost, reliability, feature ability. I mean, think of it this way. How many pieces of equipment do you have that have to get software updates, right? And then what do you have to do? You got to go out there to the transmitter site in the middle of the night and do software updates. With the AWS-based system, they do all the software updates invisible to you. So if there's a something that has been changed or improved or bug that's been squashed, they can squash it, and you never see it. It never happens on your watch. You don't have to go out and stick in a USB stick or something like that. So I see a lot of benefits to this.
I think we're getting to a point where this is quite viable. I know some people are always nervous about what happens if that cloud goes down. What happens if Amazon or Google suffer an outage? What's going to happen in terms of accessing the transmitter?
How many times have you tried to log into Amazon and had it not work?
It hasn't been a lot. No, not that many. But there have been outages of 6-12 hours on occasion.
The answer is not as often as any of the FCC sites.
Amen.
Return to that. My goodness.
And don't you imagine that goes to the number of users they get? Amazon gets millions and billions. The FCC gets hundreds or a few tens of thousands. How good can it be? And I think this gets us to if we start doing updates to our transmitters the way we do, say, to Microsoft Windows, where every other day there is some kind of bug fix or it's very incremental. I don't know. I think a third of the things I take to transmitters as, memory sticks. How often do you end up reverting to the previous version because, this is not going to work, or these transmitters are not quite custom, but they're not as mass produced as our cars. There aren't millions of them. There are 31 like this. There are 200 like that. And when you call whoever you call, the answer is, we thought we had that working, but we didn't. I would hate for that piecemeal of a problem to be in the hands of a remote network system. I mean, it'd be great when we get it working, but it may call for a scale that we will never reach.
I think this is where the fact that these engineers at 22 HBG are Amazon Web Services certified. They have a whole protocol of how you implement this stuff, how you test this stuff. Because otherwise, all the stuff that's based on AWS, those of you who went to NAB, did you see? I mean, AWS had their own zip code at the NAB this year. They were so big. They've just got so much of such importance running on them, and they've got so many thousands of engineers who specialize in exactly this technology and making it right. It's too big to fail, in my view.
And I think I'd agree with the Amazon part.
They've got thousands of users currently on the air in Europe, and more coming all the time. So the opportunity for quick recognition of anything that's not quite perfect and quick rectification of that is much better with this kind of technology, in my view.
I think for the data and the remote control part, totally agree. Absolutely. But someone said, you know, the hypothetical of when we stop having people doing this and we start using the cloud as a update thing, that really was a different subject. And I kind of veered off topic there.
Well, let's go there. One of the screens that we saw, which I found intriguing, maybe you did as well, is this system uses AI to develop a report. In the morning in your email box or whatever, you have a report of how that transmitter or that site or those linked transmitters all operated that day. One of them had a little heat problem, or the room in that particular place was too hot, or the airflow through the filter was reduced on that transmitter. Man, oh man, having a report like that in the morning seems to me to be a great deal.
When you can
Just
get
like how?
that's when it tries to kill you. That's a little different, but it's like the old days. You'd come in at 9 o'clock and you talk to your babysitters who'd ever done the night shift, and you go, how are things? Lights have been fine. The generator ran at 3 a.m. for a couple of hours because we had a power failure. They would tell you all of the routine stuff, and it was sleep insurance. What you want to hear are the exceptions. You filter it. I don't know how many people I've seen where they'd pick up the phone and it was the control point for 8 stations. They'd get a call in the morning, afternoon, say the power changed on their AMs. I'm like, you know, it's hard to test a negative, but I don't want to hear from it unless it didn't change. And that's where the virtual overnight operator is kind of the, you know, Ed Lively out at the transmitter is the guy you want. You want kind of the computer version of that. I think that part could be terrific because everything's okay. Your generators are okay. You're low on fuel, but we've ordered it and we will follow up in 5 days.
Well, that's where it is, Chuck,
upside of
isn't
this.
it? That you can specify what parameters are monitored and reported on. And that report that I was just mentioning, it can be very thin or very thick, depending upon your desire.
Yeah, and it could also be clusters of things. So if this and this and this and this are all this way, then send a notification. No need to get 7 different notifications. We don't have to go there. We can raise it up to a level, and I think that's really the opportunity that AI is. What they're scratching the surface of what AI can do with this right now. I really like the idea of monitoring National Weather Service. I like the idea of seeing what when the storms are coming through and taking action based on that. I like the idea of maybe monitoring the power companies' websites to see if there's outages in a particular area and integrating that into the reports. I like the idea of seeing that everything at the transmitter site all got affected in the same way. You know, the STL, the camera at the site, everything else got affected in the same way. I think there's a lot that we can do with AI to advance where we are.
One of the things that comes to mind as well, some companies or clusters have, well, they've centered on one particular remote control system, whether it be the Automat or Gentner. Yeah, there's still a lot of Gentners out there. There's even some sign systems for that matter. Burke possibly. All these things are out there, but this particular product brings them all together and sort of lets you move past the traditional remote control, doesn't it, Chuck?
It does. And when you buy a piece of hardware, you are rather locked into that product and the functionality that it has in it. There could be some software updates or maybe an expansion board, but look at the kind of flexibility you have for scaling this up. If GM walks in next week and says, we've just acquired another 100 stations out in Pennsylvania, you could relatively quickly put all those stations online with this and have it be part of your network, be monitoring everything that's going on.
David, your comment here is interesting. You mentioned security cameras, and certainly we now have security cameras with motion sense and things like that. This is certainly something that traditional remote controls don't touch, do they? Remote controls like this TX control won't do that. You have to get better at reading the diagnostics. And I think if you do, you're going to find things sort of like the Nautel phone home business, where sometimes they'll the transmitter will order a part before you even realize it needs it. And I think we're talking about something similar here, Chuck.
And we're talking about it at a time, and I mentioned this earlier, when broadcast engineers are being asked to do more with less. More stations, more facilities, more equipment with less time. And I'm reminded of Bill Gilman. I think I told you, Barry, about this story, but I visited Gentner years and years and years ago, and Bill Gilman was the chief engineer for Gentner in Salt Lake City. And he made a comment to me at one point. I was mentioning the fact that there wasn't much test equipment in his facility where he does all his design. And he says, Chuck, he says, I've been doing so much with so little for so long that now I can do anything with nothing in no time. And I think that applies to us all at this point.
Well, I put in a new Nautel transmitter and I could access it over the internet, but I still had to keep my old remote control because I still had to be able to monitor room temperature, tower lights, intrusion, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, but there's a world of little boxes and $50, $100, $200 boxes that will take IO in analog signals or as statuses. You go to Amazon and look around, there are zillions of these things, and they will do what our expensive remote controls did, and they would interface to something like this by filling in the lines on a page. It's making it backward compatible to our Burks, our Gentners, our Easy 8s, our Sycon 8s, or whatever. That's where we have the bigger problem.
The question, though, about keeping that legacy hardware working, in my view, the real issue is the security point. As long as we're using that existing legacy hardware from a security standpoint, we still are vulnerable. And I think often about what Jeff Welton has done, where he's put some search terms on the internet and come up with how many people have the default password for a barracks box or something like that, right? So this type of technology with the two-factor correction, with being inside a VPN, all that kind of stuff is, I would never say anything is bulletproof, but it's a whole heck of a lot further down the road than the legacy hardware is that we have today.
Yeah, but the old dial-up sign systems, for instance, you can only get into it via phone line. If you've got fiber optic phone line, lightning doesn't wipe it out anymore. and you put a password in it that nobody knows. And if you think somebody did, you can change it. And it's a pretty safe device.
Can't argue that.
It is all of that, but it's also the one-to-one relationship between one user having to dial it and enter the codes and whatnot. Without you to interpret it, it means nothing. And if you're going to do this on a scale of 100 or thousands, that really needs to be filtered through something that says, look, wake me when something really happens.
Sure, part of this is, in fact, as was mentioned in Europe, where you have whole networks of transmitters that carry the same program as you drive around a particular part of a country. So they have really spent a lot of time to understand how many transmitters one person can monitor and make it more functional so that they can handle all this stuff. Anyone have a question about the implementation? It will work, obviously, as you saw with any existing remote control, or just bypass that and go right to the transmitter or the EAS box or the audio processor.
Or the cameras or the security system or the temperature controls or whatever else you've got to monitor.
Well, that's the point. You want to have this thing operate in a way that reduces the number of dial-ups or logins or passwords or screens that you have to look at. To me, it's just looking at the one screen there, and there they all are. That's something.
How many functions can its scheduler do per day?
Virtually unlimited. You know, when you think about the kind of communication data flow that exists on the Amazon network, it's virtually unlimited.
And your scheduler can determine its daylight savings time. It's this year, so I know I got to change something on the first day of going into daylight savings time, et cetera.
I'm pretty sure that it doesn't yet, but it needs to, especially in this country where we've got a lot of rules for what areas are in what time zones, and Indiana switches in this part of the state, not in that part of the state, and things like that. There's
and power
fine-tuning.
changes are standard time, but yet post and pre sunrise is local time.
They're sensitive to that because after the part that you saw, we had a little informal Q&A, and I asked that question, and they are aware of daylight savings time. They are aware of the post-sunset authority with multi-levels, and I believe they either have it ready or they're working at it, and Chuck will know more.
It's all coming. It's just we need to also create a users group that's going to provide them the kind of feedback that's unique to the United States market. And that's where the good stuff comes from.
Well, that's sort of the point now, isn't it? Who's going to be first to step up and say, yeah, let's get this thing installed? I think you said to me, or they said, that the first 30 days were free to try it out.
They've got a trial program. So if you're interested enough that you'll put a little time in to hook this thing up and help them configure it for you, they'll give you 30 days for free, and you can see if you like it.
Anyone else? I'm looking at the YouTube site. No one has entered a question there at the moment, but
Harry, assuming that we're near the end of this thing, I want to thank you for providing this opportunity on behalf of my friends over in Italy. It's a pretty exciting thing.
A question on the interface?
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed the part where, okay, you have a transmitter and you have this service in the cloud, what's the in-between part look like that's you're implementing at the site?
So the transmitter has to have the capability of communicating via SNMP. And most all modern transmitters do that today. And so if it has SNMP, then the manufacturer of the transmitter can give you a MIB file. They call it an MIB file. And they can upload that into this software. And then you've got all of the things that are available that are visible to the SNMP protocol that you can utilize in the remote control system. And so the cloud is resident on Amazon Web Services. By the way, there's another advantage of Amazon Web Services, and that is that if you should have a massive failure in one of their servers, it's automatically backed up on several other servers, and it will automatically switch over without you being aware. So that's a benefit of Amazon Web Services. Did that answer your question, Chris? I think it was.
Yeah, would the SNMP be via like a RS-485 interface to Ethernet somehow?
Typically, you would just plug your transmitter or whatever device you're controlling into the router at your transmitter site.
Okay, copy that.
I'm sitting here thinking that that I retired too early. I think of all the time we spent having, I think there were 7 transmitter sites of various kinds in the LA market in Univision, and the amount of time we spent making that interface between the remote control and the equipment. And here, all we have to do is spend 60 seconds making a Cat5 cable, plugging it into the router, and we're done.
I absolutely empathize with that, Jim. I can tell you a story years back, and I was still with Nautel at that point. I was over in Hong Kong at a Broadcast Asia convention, and I had the very first model of the NX transmitter there with me. And I had it lit up to the point where it could show the Smith chart right on the front of the NX series transmitter. And there was a little Chinese gentleman, broadcast engineer. He must have been 4 foot tall, but he was elderly. And he looked up at me and he started to cry. And I said, "Why are you crying?" And he says, "Well, I was chief engineer of these AM stations here in Hong Kong all these years. Do you realize how many nights I could have spent home with my wife rather than doing plots on the transmitter?"